What are you most grateful for this year?
My daughter. It's just the fact that I'm a dad.
Are you grateful for anything else that's not related to you? Big-ish.
Yeah, it's with my family. That's it.
Yeah, we the best in the world.
Last year has been really good professionally. Like, I'm really grateful. Sounds corny, but I'm really grateful to be here.
That's what I just said. We should
It sounds so corny. I thought stupid me.
One of them.
Listen to this. Joe Budden isn't holding back, and he's calling out Ish and Ice for straight up slacking. That's right, the Newark couch is looking a little shaky these days. Ever since Mona and Marc rolled in, it's like Ish and Ice think they can just kick back, relax, and let everyone else carry the load. But hold up, Joe Budden clearly ain't having that energy. On a recent podcast episode, the crew was going around talking about what they're grateful for. Ish hit up his family, Ice did the same, but Joe, he was looking for a little more fire. Girl, it felt like he wanted them to actually talk about their job. Yep, Joe seemed to want Ish to recognize how lucky they are to be on one of the best podcasts in the game. Paid well, valued, even with little experience. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly my take, but you can see that's definitely Joe's vibe. And it didn't stop there. Some wild moments revealed how Ish and Ice really see themselves. For instance, Ish wasn't even ready to speak on the Eddie Murphy documentary. And if you've seen it, you know it's solid, must-watch material. But Ish, he hadn't even seen it. Instead, he jumped into the convo pretending he did, just tossing out, "That's black excellence," like he'd actually watched the whole thing.
You ain't see it, right?
I ain't see it.
They show a clip
but I've seen a bunch of the clips.
Richard Pryor. He legit left me like just impressed by that
So
shit.
to me, that's black excellence.
Hold up. This was so wild that even Marc had to call it out. Ish straight up didn't watch the documentary.
Doing an interview, and the interviewer says,
Girl, you won't believe this. Marc wasn't done exposing Ish's fronting skills, and he straight up laughed at him. Ish really has a talent for jumping into a conversation while completely uninformed and somehow making it look like he's shining. During the podcast discussion about the bigger picture going out of business, you could literally tell Ish hadn't seen a single episode. And honestly, that has to annoy the cast big time. I mean, I was watching the Parks and Imani interview, and Parks literally called out how some people try to talk music with him even though they know nothing. Yeah, that screams Ish, always acting like a know-it-all on every single topic. I can't lie, though, that's black excellence moment had me dying. It's like, I gotta say something, I got nothing, but let me make it sound untouchable so we all move on. Hilarious. But hold up, Marc didn't stop there. He also threw some shade at Ice when a question meant for them got redirected to Joe. Joe hits back with, "Why are you asking me?" And Marc basically said, "Because you're more likely to actually do your job and answer the damn question."
I want to know what y'all most grateful for this year.
See it another day.
Oh, come on, give me a real answer. Joe, what you most grateful for?
Well, I prayed. Why do I have to go first?
I'll go
I
first.
actually told God.
Because you actually answer questions on the live podcast.
I'll go
yeah.
first.
That part. That's
I,
right.
I am grateful for my new...
Whoa, buddy. This was telling as hell that Marc Lamont was straight up poking fun at Ice. And yeah, he had a point. I asked Ish and Ice a question, and they basically ghosted it. So now Joe Budden and I have to go back and forth and actually make a podcast happen. Listen to this. Marc was shooting the whole episode, and you could tell he was fed up with how Ish and Ice were coasting. At one point, he even asked Ish, "Yo, do you ever watch anything on YouTube?" And you could feel the sarcasm building. He was done with the lazy approach to the show. Girl, Marc gets petty when someone isn't doing their job, and he doesn't hold back. And honestly, I think he might even be drinking a bit on set. These dudes be drinking, right? And as the night goes on, you see Marc get tipsy, more animated, and just start making things uncomfortably funny. But it's still top-tier entertainment. I'm not saying he should stop, but I noticed that. And honestly, a drunk mind speaks a sober soul. Now, Ish and Ice's journey on the show has been full of creative clashes. When they first arrived, Joe Budden was all about letting them find their footing, flaws, tangents, whatever they wanted to talk about. But eventually, Joe started tightening the reins, and that caused mad tension. One of the biggest examples was when Joe would tell Ish, "Yo, nobody cares about you talking about your daughter, and if you do, make it interesting so people actually want to hear it." And with Ish, it was all serious topics, and Joe would pull him aside like, "Are you thinking about the audience? Some people listen to this for escape, not a lecture on every heavy topic." Essentially, Joe was saying, you guys have zero balance. You keep trying to mimic the old pod, and it doesn't land. That's why the show got the nickname Uncle Pod. It wasn't just their age, it was their vibe and approach to content. And that's why Joe pivoted and brought Flip in to reset the deck. Flip wasn't a ton younger, but he brought energy, lightness, and a willingness to touch on topics without being heavy all the time. Ish and Ice used to be tough to sit through. Remember when I had Patreon, I'd cancel it for 2 months because the serious vibes from Ish and Ice were just too much. Then Flip and Melissa came on, and I was like, okay, now I gotta keep my Patreon. Who knows what wild stuff might happen? But time will tell if these dudes ever really change. Honestly, I think they won't, because Ish and Ice are still holding on to the old guard of the show.
Listen to this. Joe Budden's podcast has always thrived on friendship over career connections. By that, I mean Joe gets Marc and Mona. They're not his actual friends, but they know the game and how to entertain. Same with Melissa Ford and Flip. But Ish and Ice, they let Joe sell friendship to the audience, and that's been a huge part of why the show stands out. Now, it's unclear if Joe and Ish are still tight, but it's obvious they used to be. They grew together, built a bond, and found their own identities along the way. And Ice, as Joe said, is just a solid person he enjoys having around. Plus, Ice shows up on time and is open to feedback. That said, Ice still has training wheels on, no cap. Everyone on the cast knows Joe protects him, and they really can't go at him. Marc jokes with everybody else, but not Ice. Only time will tell if that changes. But tell me what you think. Do you feel like Ish and Ice have lost their voice now that Marc and Mona are in the mix? Girl, Mona is always trying to get under Ice's skin with social issues, and Marc's doing the same in his own way. But Marc's also careful. He doesn't want to come off like the academic interloper, constantly poking at people's intellect. He's sensitive to perception. He's trying to reach an audience he never hit on CNN, VH1, or the Black News Network. If that audience thinks he's snaky or using his smarts to undermine Ish and Ice, his whole purpose on the show falls apart. So he's like a politician, curating every move. But hold up, in this episode, we saw a side of him that he couldn't fully hide, and it was entertaining. I'm excited to see how this plays out. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Joe is tripping for expecting Ish and Ice to show gratitude? These are the same guys who saved his podcast when Rory and Mal dipped. Shouldn't Joe be the one showing gratitude? And doesn't he always undermine their value whenever a new cast member joins? Remember when Flip came on? Joe hyped him up like he was the second coming of Pizza Bites, and it didn't stick. The same thing happened with Marc. So hey, this is the culture you created. Don't expect gratitude from people you never really appreciate.